Hello again, everyone. This is Bionic Slime. I'm your online voice for reviews of your choice, and this is another installment of BS Reviews. Well, it must be my day for vampires because just after finishing my review on the Ethan Hawke led film Daybreakers, I'm now giving you another vampire show in review, and that is the anime series Black Blood Brothers. Another relatively obscure and unknown anime that I seem to have a habit of falling into repeatedly. Just a little thing to clear up before we start. Part of why find these rare series and why I review animes because I like telling people about anime that they might not know about. And much like with my Gokudo review, I hope you guys take the time and effort to try and check this series out because I think the best kind of anime series is the one you're not watching. Black Blood Brothers is brought to you by Funimation Studios. It was directed and written by Hiroaki Yoshikawa, who's worked on such shows as You're Under Arrest and Pokemon Destiny Deoxys movie. The animation was done by Toshiyuki Sugano, who's done animation work for Black Lagoon, Trigun, and worked on all three Dragon Ball series. Black Blood Brothers stars the vocal talent of Coleen Clinkenbeard as Mimiko Katsuragi, J. Michael Tatum as Jiro Mochizuki, Leah Clark as Kotaro Mochizuki, Luci Christian as Cassandra Jill Warlock, Christopher Sabat as Kane Warlock, and Jerry Jewell as Zelman Clark. Plot of Black Blood Brothers. In Hong Kong, there was a specific vampire race that outbroke and nearly destroyed everything. A vampire race called the Coleen Children, a highly infectious vampire race that can turn both vampires and humans into their own kind. They were ultimately all but destroyed by the vampire Jiro Mochizuki, known as Silver Blade. 10 years later, he is returning to Japan with his younger brother Kotaro in hopes of finding sanctuary in a place called the Special Zone, a special city that is protected by a magical barrier and is a city where both humans and vampires can cohabitate in secrecy under the protection of a specific company called the Coffin Company. They assign a woman known as a compromiser, Mimiko Katsuragi, to basically make things easier to transition Jiro and Kotaro living inside the Special Zone. Unfortunately, their arrival has also brought back old enemies from Jiro's past in the form of Cassandra Jill Warlock, a vampire witch who hopes to resurrect the Coleen Children race with her two demonic vampire henchmen, Yafri Chow and Zaza. Now Jiro must work with the Coffin Company and their other house-bred vampires such as Kane Warlock and Zelman Clark in order to battle against Cassandra's dark magic and prevent the Coleen race from outbreaking in Japan again. Review of the plot. One of the things I love to death about this show is that the very minute you start, it blew you away with an intense blast of deep information and incredible action. And that's the one thing I think this show excels at perfectly: information and action. And they mix together beautifully. I had no idea that there was so much history and background information and vampire lore hidden in this anime series. I didn't think there was that much to it, but in fact, there's a lot to it. And I was really impressed at how deep the story was and how detailed all the information was, because there's a lot of rules and special powers and things going on in here that I didn't even expect. And it was just really nice to be surprised with a nice, deep, well thought, in depth storyline. And another interesting thing they do is that they bring a new touch to the vampire history by creating two specific vampire races: the Old Bloods and the New Bloods. The Old Bloods are still immune to sunlight and crosses and all that stuff, but they are capable of wielding much more super special powers that make them far more dangerous. However, the New Bloods, the new generation vampires, seem to have lost those powers, but in compensation, they are no longer weakened by sunlight. So now you got two specific races of vampires that exist in this show: the older ones who are affected by the sunlight and have superpowers, and the newer ones who don't get affected by the sunlight and don't have any powers. I thought it was a really nice touch, and I thought it was an interesting spin on the whole vampire history, especially with this whole Coleen Children thing. It's another neat thing. They bring a new type of a vampire race. It's like the Blade movie, the Reapers. It's a race within a race. I just thought that was a really nice touch, and the story unfolds very nicely with all the twists and turns in the story that they set up here, and I'm just really impressed that they were able to manage all of that along with all the action in the show. Review of the characters. Another thing I really liked about the show is that it had a good multiple cast of solid characters who are all over the place. You've got a lot of people in different factions, different groups all around here, and they all culminate in this well-rounded show that plays off every character pretty much evenly with everyone. I mean, Jiro Mochizuki may look like he walked out of a Guilty Gear video game or something, but he's an interesting character because he's so polite and so well-mannered, and yet he still proves he can be a total, absolute badass. I mean, there are scenes of him running along city walls, slicing vampires in half, and just proving why he lives up to his legend of the name Silverblade. Then you got his polar opposite, his adorable younger brother, Kotaro, who's as innocent as you can be and is so devoted and so loving of his older brother. And then you got Mimiko, who is a really fun character, who just brings a nice sense of humor, and cuteness, and balance to the group. And they all do a great job with the performances. J. Michael Tatum was really good as Jiro. He has a very interesting voice and just felt perfect for this character. Very soft-spoken, very deep, very honest. Coleen Clinkenbeard I loved as Mimiko. She played a hilarious character who really got the emotions down when she was crabby, when she was upset, when she was serious, when she was happy, when she was sad, when she was angry. She really did a great job giving this character's wide range of emotions down to the nail. And Kotaro's Leia Clark, very funny, very cute. Leia Clark actually has a couple roles in here and does a very good job balancing her voice out around. I love Luci Christian in here. I actually almost didn't recognize her because I've heard in her other work, and she doesn't sound like herself at all here as Cassandra. And she played a very good villainous vampire witch who I really thought was a great foe, like a really unique idea for an opponent. I love Christopher Sabat in anything he does, and his role isn't that big in here, but he was very good and very amusing for his character as Kane. Another character I absolutely adored, he's probably my favorite, is Zelman Clock, played by Jewell, who I already loved from Fruits Basket. It's a very soft, quiet-spoken performance, but it works so perfectly with this character, and it just makes him seem that much cooler and that much badass, and it's really nice to see that you don't have to shout or scream to make the character seem interesting. So it's a good cast. I love big casts of characters. I think it's very interesting and very fun to watch. Review the animation and the music. The animation is beautiful. It's actually probably one of the better styles of animations I've seen in my recent anime purchases. It's got a nice array of bright colors, and they have really intricate details on the weapons and the characters' costumes and the city around them. I mean, it looks really beautiful when their vampires are running along the sides of buildings and fighting, like Matrix style with swords. I mean, it's like Blade and Matrix mixed together, and it looks very fluid, very smooth. The explosions and the fight scenes, they just look so gorgeous, so gorgeously brought to life. Music was good. The opening theme is okay. It's not bad. It's not great. Not MP3 worthy, but it was good. Some good tunes in the series. Pretty average, nothing outstanding. The ending themes, though, very soft, very sad, very beautiful, touching melody. That is MP3 worthy. I love the ending song. It's such a beautiful song they picked. I highly recommend checking it out. Flaws about the show. As with most short animes, one of the big problems almost always is the length. This show does not really conclude everything perfectly. I mean, it does conclude it, but it's not a proper ending. They leave it wide open for more, and that would be great if they knew you were going to continue it, but they're not, and that's the problem. It leaves you hanging, and you get so sucked in and attached to these characters in the storyline, but it just ends so abruptly like that. It just makes you mad that you're like, why can't you just continue? I don't know why you just got to end things like that. Another problem is that the whole thing with the vampire races, like the New Bloods and the Old Bloods, they didn't really make that very clear. I actually had to come up with that and determine that from what I saw and interpreted on the show. I had to watch it a couple times before I could pull that out. So I was disappointed that they didn't explain that very clearly, because the show is all about, vampire mythology and rules and that, and it could have benefited from some explanation. Final wrap up, Black Blood Brothers is a really, really good vampire anime series that I don't feel people have given enough credit or attention to. It's been overlooked, and it's a true shame, because this is a beautifully drawn anime series that brings back old school vampires with new school vampires and mixes them in a way that's compelling and interesting. You got much more complex backgrounds and storylines going on here with a great cast of colorful characters. I loved Coleen Clinkenbeard. She was excellent here, very cute, very affectionate. I love J. Michael Tatum. He was very good in there. Leia Clark, funny. Really good job with Jewell. He's always a treat to see Christopher Sabat, Luci Christian. talented voice actors. I was disappointed that they didn't clear up all the vampire rules that effectively, and I freaking hate it when they end things so abruptly, but all in all, this is a very good vampire series and just a very good anime series in general. Bottom line, I give Black Blood Brothers 3 stars and a half out of 5. Well, that's all for now. This has been Bionic Slime for BS Reviews. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye for now.